It is Monday, March 22nd, 2021. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was yet another non-virtual Get Your Ass Kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Monday. Although I did actually participate in Jiu-Jitsu today. I cannot tell you how good it felt to get back on the mat and get to the thing and do the do. I've missed it terribly. At least for about 3 weeks now. I've been out because of a case of ringworm. You got to take that shit seriously. You gotta wash up. You gotta maintain your hygiene. But some people don't. And then they get lazy and bring that shit to the gym with them. Anyway, so yeah, got to get back on the mat today. I made sure to get qualled first. You know, I'm not an inconsiderate fuck. I'm not gonna just drag this shit back out on the mat thinking that I'm clear. I got my instructor basically to qual me on this. And so he said I was good to go. I went, and it was fucking wonderful. I did not lose as much of my beat as I thought I would. Although I didn't do the full warm up today. If I'd have done the regular sets of shrimps, I might have been a little more tired by the end of the session. But you know, all told, I got in a really good workout and got in a lot of reps. I love it when I get with a partner who just wants to fucking learn it, you know, and they're willing to do rep after rep after rep. And if you give them a little tip, they actually pay attention to it. And so yeah, I had exactly that today. A training partner who not only wanted to get it done, wanted to learn it, but wanted to do a lot of reps. And so the thing that we were doing today was starting from a Z-guard. And I kind of like the Z-guard because you can slip it real quick to a nice underhook situation. And one thing I like to do, and I haven't worked it out like 100%, but like what I like to do on that is that after you've gotten the underhook, I like to go ahead and slide that one leg that you got a little bit further in between their legs and really capture in on that outside leg, and then post with your hand, you know, to where you're propping yourself up and hook around the back of their hip, right? Or around the front of their hip rather, and grab that and then lean back, and you'll pull them right over. You'll just sweep them right over. And so yeah, it's a lot of fun. But you got to make sure to post yourself. Anyway, so we were going from Z-guard and then into a what was the position after that? Z-guard and then sweeping from inside to outside on the hand that's defending, you know. So they got the leg up, right? Well, they'll typically have a hand up on that same side defending, right? So they got the leg up and the hand up, and you grab the wrist of that hand. And the one thing I was doing that I think made it a little bit easier for me, and my partner was having trouble on this, and I told him, but he's still having a little bit of trouble with it afterward. I think after like maybe the next time that he does it, it'll probably like sink in and he'll hear me say it. That I like to ground the arm. And this is one thing that I was really paying attention to do, is that like you sweep from the outside, you know, you hook your hand to the outside of their hand, and you come up from the inside, and as you do, you grab down on the wrist. And when you do, you continue to push that arm down. And you're wanting to take that arm into a Kimura position, so it's important to ground it anyway, because it gives you a better leverage on that Kimura. So you pin that hand down, and you start going for a Kimura. So you're reaching up over the shoulder, back through the arm, and grabbing your own wrist, And in the process of doing that, going over their shoulder to where you've like done a front flip basically, and then pulled them back flat. And that was one thing I was trying to stress to my partner, is that ground that arm, pin the arm down with your arm, and then reach over the shoulder and then grab your own arm and then kind of flip over at the same time. And you're doing like a shoulder roll out that side. And you really want to keep really hard grip on that arm, because if you let it slip, you're not going to have enough force to pull them back flat. You're trying to pull them back flat so that they will come up on the arm that you have, right? And they're like trying to disengage that arm. Well, in the meantime, you sneak your legs up behind their back and start going for that back take position. Now, one thing I was doing on this, and my partner was not, he was going a little bit too fast. He was more concerned with trying to do the movement fast than doing it right. And this, I think, it was kind of the thing that was messing with him. Maybe he drinks too much caffeine or something. I don't know. Anyway, so you get the arm through, you grab your own wrist, you flip over, and you pull them flat. And the way I was doing it on this is I would grab his wrist, I would reach through and lean over as I was starting to do the shoulder roll. Okay? And so when I was coming over, I was putting my hand through, grabbing on my wrist, and then pulling really, really tight to my upper body as I was going over. And the instructor had said not to let your feet touch. Personally, I was letting my feet touch, but I was also pulling my opponent back a little bit. And then he would roll into me just like you're supposed to, and then I would bring my legs up behind him, the one over the top, and then I would like squish him. Okay, so I'd really pull that arm in, and then and I've got a double grip on it. I was reaching around the one side and pulling it, and then reaching through the under his armpit to grab it there too, and just double pulling him in with that leg coming over the side. And then he kept tapping because I don't know. I think I was doing like basically a single arm rear naked choke on him, and I wasn't intending to. It's just I was getting to the back of his shoulder every time, and so yeah. Anyway, so I would get to the back of his shoulder before I would disengage with the arm to get into a rear naked choke position with it. Okay, and one additional thing on that was I didn't do it right one time, and he brought his hand up to defend the choke. And so I grabbed his wrist and I forced it down into an armbar position. But that's another thing. Anyway, so it was that, and then transitioning that it was going into a triangle basically. So let me walk it through again. Over the top. Yeah. And so you bring your legs up, bring the hook over. And he was having a lot of trouble with this. He was doing so much work trying to get me swung over. And it was because he was not holding it in tight like that. Like I said, you hold it in tight and then roll over it. Right? And so you pin it, you roll over it, and you're able to stay tighter to it if you pin it first. If you pin it to the ground first, it makes it easier to stay tighter to your opponent. And that's really important, because the next movement for them is to try and recover that arm, right? Well, that gives you the perfect opportunity to sweep up behind them, hook the leg over the top, and get the one hook in. Now, because you only have one hook in, you have to bring them over so that you can get the other hook in, right? But instead of worrying about, just sweeping him over really, really quick, I was doing it a little bit different, where I was pulling him as tight as I could to me and like holding him in first and then leaning over and bringing the leg up to do the hook. And that was like the one big difference between the way he was doing it and the way that I was doing it, where he was like trying to heave me up on top of him, and I was just going limp. And that might have been something that was hurting his game, but even if he had done it limp, I'd have still been able to get him into the movement. Now, and it's not a strength thing either. You know, and that's a real important point to make is that, like I said, I made sure I had my arm all the way across his neck over to his other shoulder. Even if he was able to get a hand in the way, I made sure I was able to grab his shoulder before I disengaged my hand to get him up in a rear naked choke position. And that was, you know, like I said, that was one thing that he was doing differently that was making life way more difficult than it had to be for him. But I don't know, it seemed like he was enjoying the effort, so I didn't try too hard to correct him. You know, besides, I envision that I'll probably roll against him and that'll be a way out. But now, I should have said something on that one, but I made plenty of tips to try and help him out, and I did tell him to continually ground that hand, because that was like the one thing that when I was learning this in a gi jiu-jitsu situation, and we did learn the same thing, but it's a little bit easier when you have the sleeve itself to grab onto, or the collar to grab onto, you know, or if you have both, it's even better. That's beside the point. It's not gi jiu-jitsu. But anyway, the transition from that is that, so they tap for the rear naked choke, and they buck their hips up and leg press basically, and that is to try and get out of the choke position. But you push them down from there and bring your legs up to try and get them in a triangle. Well, the first time they'll push it off, but the second time you manage to get it in there. And I was having a lot of trouble figuring out like which leg to try and get in there. And if you still have at least a safety belt on him, like for me it would have been like bringing up my right leg would be the one to try and grip with my left hand. And again, I was having a lot of trouble on that one, just because I've never picked up the triangle from this position. Is weird. It's like you've got them facing away from you, you know, like you were doing a rear naked choke basically. And so say you tried to get your leg or your right leg over them and failed the first time, but managed to get it the second time. And the second time, you reached up with your left hand and grabbed your own ankle, right? And then you take your left foot and you put it on their hip, and you push on the hip to where you're kind of perpendicular with them, and then you bring that leg that you just pushed up with and hook it up over the foot. You know, your right foot. And so now they're in a really good tight triangle. And you grab the arm that's sticking up, and you want their thumb, I think pointing out one toward your right shoulder, I think. Anyway, you got it locked, and you could either go for the choke or the arm bar from there. And the instructor was saying go for both. I was tapping him out so quick on a couple things that I didn't really have an opportunity to get his arm in the right position. But so the next one is they managed to reach around and bring and flip their body over, right? And you're supposed to go from the existing triangle that you have to the other side. And I was able to do that one really, really easily, because like all it really included was lifting my hips up a little bit higher, and what that allowed for is for me to swing my buttock from the one side that I've got the triangle on to swinging it to the opposite side, and now I just hook behind the knee with my arm and get really perpendicular with him, or go ahead and put my right foot on his hip to adjust it even tighter and sink that triangle in for a choke. And so that one I gave him a tip on, and he did manage to get that. I think like the last like 3 or 4 triangles he did were just fucking excellent. I mean, like I didn't know whether I was going to get choked out or whether he was going to get that arm bar in right, but I tapped. You know, it's just one of those things where he really locked it in, and it felt like he had gotten the concept like all at once. Like I said the right words, he understood them properly, and that was that. He understood to swing his hips, and he was able to switch out that one triangle for the other, and I didn't feel like there was a point in between where I would have been able to get out of it. I mean, I've got a few standard defenses for triangles, and I did show him one on that where, like, if somebody goes and pushes your arm around to where it's up over their hip and around the back of their hamstring, I like that, because basically they've fed that arm to me. And I like to, so say it's my left arm that they've got wrapped around their right hip and their right hamstring. I reach around with my right hand and grab my own wrist and pull. And if they're with their back on the ground, I can generally put some additional weight on the top of their hip to open the legs and get out. But I did show them how to do it, where I pulled down on that elbow and just kept doing it until I was able to rotate a little bit, and then I was sideways in between his legs, and I just put my hand on his knee and did like a bench press, you know, where I pushed his thigh with both hands to get out of it, basically. And if I was really smart, I'd have grabbed his ankle and kept it tucked and then just gone around it. But I did not. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music. And, you know we're going to go with body count, because that's just what we do here. But what song? Got like several good albums here to choose from, so, you know, picking the right one to go with sometimes challenging. I think it's time for the Ski Mask Way. Some people are needing a little bit of humbling out there. And so here it is. Body Count, the Ski Mask Way. First Dance, here on Coin Metal.
Police are hunting for 2 suspects in a violent home invasion. They are worried that these men may strike again.
And that was Skindred with Nobody. And so, as far as what we're going to get into today, I've only briefly gathered some good stuff that I wanted to cover today. Somebody really alarmed me in one of the Telegram channels that I'm in, where he was like, "Oh, the Fed or Jerome Powell made a bunch of statements today," and I read them, and one of the things that Jerome Powell said that I thought that was absolutely fucking hilarious, was that Bitcoin isn't backed by anything. Now, I want you to like put together a couple little narrative pieces, and I want you to tell me if it makes any sense to you. Jerome Powell says it's not backed by anything, but a variety of entities have commented on how much energy is quote-unquote wasted in the process of mining Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So I want you to put those two things together. On one hand, it's a waste of energy. On the other hand, it's not backed by anything. Now, I don't know about you, but when I look at my electricity bill, they're charging me money for that electricity. And you know, if I'm dedicating that electricity to the process of mining a cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin, well gosh, that means that It's backed by the electricity that I'm buying off of my fucking local utility board. And it's backed by the fact that I'm willing to mine it. And it's backed by the hardware that I'm mining it with. And it's backed by the bandwidth that I'm dedicating to the process of mining. All of these things are real-world inputs. All of these things cost money. All of these things are necessary in order to have Bitcoin. Therefore, Bitcoin is backed by our bandwidth, our electricity, our hardware, and our time and effort. It is backed by us, as in the planet, not gold miners, not bankers who hold on to the gold, us. So this idea that it is quote-unquote backed by quote-unquote nothing is a bunch of fucking bullshit, and you should probably slap the person who's telling that to you because they have absolutely no fucking idea what they're talking about. So yeah, that's what I think of what Jerome Powell had to say about Bitcoin. On to more important news. So I got a friend online, and I'm thinking about reading this thing here to you because this friend of mine has been repeatedly trying to convince me that Bitcoin is a lost cause, Bitcoin is a CIA operation, Bitcoin is a bunch of bullshit. Meanwhile, he's involved in cryptocurrencies. He's involved in the cryptocurrency space to some extent. I'm assuming at least an investor. And so it's an ongoing thing for us to talk about some of the things that are going, and he, out of everybody, is probably the one that takes my thesis concerning cryptocurrency the most seriously on Twitter. Now, I have people that take me seriously elsewhere, to be sure, but he takes me seriously on Twitter, and so we have these really interesting conversations about Bitcoin, about value, about what's going to happen with Bitcoin. And he does share my perspective that Bitcoin has, for the most part, become infested by bankers and other traditional legacy MSBs. And what you must keep in mind is that these people are no more powerful than you are. You know, when Bitcoin tanks and you get wrecked, fucking MicroStrategies gets wrecked too. It's not something that they get to dabble in and not feel the pain. If they're going to expose their portfolios to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, they're going to experience all of it. There is no escape from it. There's no, you get to profit and everybody else just gets to eat your ass. That game is over. The possibility for the public to game the system, to get a strategic edge, is not out of the realm of possibility anymore. And so I got this thing here, and I'm thinking about reading it, and we may get back to it. It was supposedly authored on June 18th, 1996, and it says how to make a mint the cryptography of an anonymous electronic cash. And basically it's by the NSA, National Security Agency, Office of Information Security Research and Technology, Cryptography Division. And it goes through, I'm not going to go into it quite yet. I may. Not quite yet, though. But basically it's a description of more or less Bitcoin. And that's cool and all. But the fact that it took it until 2009 or 2008 or 2009, that I'm never sure like exactly when I got involved. I want to say it was like August of 2008, but I could be mistaken on there. It might have been August of 2009. I don't know. All I do know is that it was in its infancy, and it was so small, the network was so small, that they noticed when I turned off my single core 1.8 gigahertz P3. I mean, we're not talking about a really expensive piece of hardware, but they noticed when my node went out, and they're like, "Hey, is there something wrong?" I'm like, "Dude, this thing's making my room really hot, and I don't know if I even got it set up right. I don't seem to be making any coin here, and yeah, so thank you very much. It was a lot of fun. Best of luck." And I stayed involved in the conversation for quite a bit, though, and it was kind of funny because I can't claim to be the first person to think of altcoins, but I'm sure the concern came up, but it was a new enough thing to the argument that they didn't actually have. Enough. It was early enough to the conversation, rather, that they didn't really have any kind of effective conversation pieces to counter it with. And I think that if in fact the NSA created Bitcoin and released it all as some mind trap to get us to infect ourselves with it as money, as using it as money, or the idea of using it as money, rather, that's all well and good, but the utility of it, the thing that makes having a monopoly on it appealing, went away the moment that they released it as an open source project, because suddenly it meant that everybody else could develop their own little flavor of it and re-release it out to the public and compete with it. And that's exactly what has happened. And I kind of predicted this, back in the early days, back before any of you were involved and any of you were looking at Bitcoin as something that you could actually exchange for dollars, because there were no exchanges back then. But I brought it up where they were talking about tokenization and shit like that, and I'm like, well, why are we developing this like peer-to-peer network if we're just going to hand it off to third parties? Oh, well, you shouldn't care about it by then, you'd be fucking rich, whatever. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's not actually going to happen that way. But if you were involved back then, and you had had a lot of Bitcoin back then, you're fucking uber rich right now. And so, like, I'm like barking in the wind, but that's fine. The money gets spent one way or another. So anyway, I brought up the idea that, well, if you start doing stuff like that and people don't agree with you, what's to stop them from forking off or creating their own cryptocurrency and launching it? Oh, well, who's going to exchange it? Who's going to exchange money for it? Blah, 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 blah. Well, it's a valid argument, but here is the thing that they forgot or something. Okay, that when Bitcoin launched, people were saying the same thing about it. And back then, most people were saying that about it. Who is going to give you money for what you're doing? Fucking everybody I knew told me that. Who's going to pay you for the Bitcoin, huh? Everybody I knew said that shit. And look at it now. It's $60,000 fucking Bitcoin, or like $53,000 per Bitcoin. And it's one of the fastest growing industries on the fucking planet. And so, it's like when you have that kind of perspective of it, where there was no Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden these people that were arguing with me with the idea that nobody's going to value them, and how are you going to get people to value them? They were like forgetting the proposition that we were asking other people to engage in. We were saying, hey, we know you have your national currency, and we know that you've used those as money pretty much your entire life, and they've been the only money that you've known your entire life. But here's this other thing. It's purely digital, and you can use it as money. Trust us. And so far, it has to some extent, lived up to its intended utility, although it has diverted in the last few years. It is something that I imagine will change in the not-so-distant future. I think because Bitcoin is an option, we can entertain these as options or ways that we can use Bitcoin. But in truth, in absolute truth, when it comes down to it, the cheapest way to use Bitcoin will be transacting it yourself. Because at least you'll be able to commit your transaction to a block. And at least you'll be able to say to everybody else on the planet, fuck you, I'm getting my transaction included in a block. Because if that's not true, there is no reason for you to hold Bitcoin. If you can't spend it with whomever you want, whenever you want, it is no longer useful to you as a currency. And see, so like I said, you know, these people were talking about, oh, we're gonna shift around the monetary policy, and you're gonna go back to fractional Bitcoin. And I'm like, no, you're asking me to sign up with this thing and to get away from fractional reserve banking, but you want to lead me around by the nose through a whole bunch of semantic and mimetic bullshit until I'm back around to accepting fractional reserve of bullshit IOU tokens. You know, you fucking onboarded me with proof of work and trustlessness and immutability, and are handing me something that's no better than a Visa card. You know, as the intended product. Well, like I said, I told them, and at that time, people are not going to go for that shit. You know, they're going to start listening to you, and then they're going to start hearing you telling instead of having a conversation with them, telling them how they're going to use their Bitcoin, and they're going to stop mining it, and they're going to exchange it for something else. You know, they'll cash out of it into US dollars, or they'll mine something else. You know, they'll create something else to mine. They will mine it, and they will transact in that instead. And they didn't believe me. They laughed at me. I'm like, okay, apparently you haven't been around the open source area very long. I mean, because people fucking scalp one another's code and launch their code before their project is even finalized. You know, that happens in open source all the fucking time. And you're telling me you're going to make money open source, but you're the only one that's going to be able to do it. I mean, really, that whole, like, revisiting the proposition of what money is, that's opening a big-ass fucking Pandora's box of concepts that people have relied on and lived with their entire fucking lives, and you're bringing people up to question it, to assume another possibility, and then you assume they're just going to rely on that one possibility, that they're not going to continue to ask questions, that they're not going to look at it and say, well, wait a minute, you know, we just did this thing where we transitioned over to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's all electronic and it's open source, but I don't really like Bitcoin. I don't like that I have to wait so long for it. I don't like that they're trying to make me use it through a third party. I want to use a cryptocurrency that I can transact peer-to-peer, directly on-chain, have my transactions immutably recorded on a blockchain, and be on with my fucking day. And I'm going to do it. And like I said, these people, when I brought that up as a possibility, they laughed at me, and here we are. There's fucking thousands of altcoins out there. There's thousands of projects getting built on a couple of those altcoins that should have been happening on Bitcoin, but no. They decided to pull a policy bait and switch on everybody, and they wonder why we vehemently react to them on social media when they tell us that coins other than Bitcoin are shit coins. Because it's like, fuck you. You had a chance. You had a chance to write it. And instead, you've been looking to serve the interests of bankers and MSBs and regulators and governments. And well, we didn't sign up for that shit. So you go ahead and you go fuck off and do that somewhere else. And then we're going to take our ball and go somewhere else too. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. And that's really where we're at in crypto. And the fact that mining is continuing to expand, that and it is expanding. I read a report on the show last week or the week before that was saying that NVIDIA has shipped 20.1% more units over the last quarter than they had over the previous quarter. In the previous quarter, I think it was like it was another multiple up. But the point being is the mining space is not getting any smaller. People are still buying up video cards as quick as they can get on the shelves, if not quicker, and putting them to work mining. You know, and it is funny, I was reading somewhere that I want to say it was the Ethereum network, it doubled in size over the last 6 months. And this is all time that they were supposed to be preparing for transitioning over to proof of stake. And they picked up 50% more miners, or 100% more miners than they had previously, 6 months previously. So that their network is getting bigger, not smaller, the way it should, if everybody takes them real seriously about this idea of transitioning away from proof of work. They should be fleeing Ethereum's network, but they're not. People like Ethereum as a proof of work network, and so they're joining it. You know, that's one of the reasons why I don't think they're going to put through BIE or EIP 1559. I don't think the miners are going to do that. They're supposed to in July, but I don't think they are. I think they're going to face off against the difficulty bomb and be like, okay, you fucking deal with it. You get us out of this shit, or you're going to watch the whole network get fucked. And that's really where I think it's going to go. Anyway, on to actual stuff to read. And I got this thing, it's on the Daily Hodl. SEC says XRP is fundamentally different than Bitcoin and Ethereum as legal battle with Ripple intensifies. Okay. And this is by the HODL staff. It's on March 21st, 2021. So yesterday. And no indication of genitalia. The legal counsel of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission is arguing that XRP is unlike Bitcoin and Ethereum. During a hearing in the SEC's case against Ripple, in which the regulatory agency accuses the digital payments firm of illegally selling unauthorized securities in the form of XRP, legal counsel Jorge Tenriero argues that XRP is dissimilar to the two large-cap crypto assets which have already been cleared by the SEC. Now, to that point, there isn't a government on the planet that's been able to stop people from mining Bitcoin. The SEC is conceded that they can't do shit about Bitcoin or Ethereum or any one of the other 2,000 proof-of-work cryptocurrencies out there. Continuing, U.Today reports that within his case against Ripple, Tenero notes that XRP, unlike Bitcoin and Ethereum, is backed by a knowable and singular body. Quote, Mr. Solomon, Ripple's general counsel, tries to say that, quote, we are no different than Bitcoin and Ether, as Ripple's own lawyers told them, you are not like Bitcoin because you are one entity that has created these assets. That is fundamentally different. The lawyer also asserts that even though the company has attempted to find a use case for its XRP token, the firm has been unable to demonstrate that its token has any utility, despite the fact that the Japanese and Singaporean government are both using it. Quote, we dispute whether this utility actually exists, Your Honor, but the point is, even if it did exist, Ripple and the defendants' efforts to develop a use for XRP is what makes XRP a security. Wrong. That's not what makes it a security. It isn't a security, but you're trying to say it's a security because it looks kind of like one, and you think that you deserve a cut of the fucking transactions that are going across that network. Well, you don't. Go fuck yourself. Continuing, Judge Sarah Netburn, the Netburn. Gosh, what an appropriate name. You ever notice that the names associated with federal officials or state officials or whatever that are involved in this shit have appropriate names? Continuing, Sarah Netburn, the presiding official in the case, attempts to clarify the difference between XRP and the first and second largest crypto assets. Quote, my understanding of XRP is not only does it have a currency value, but it also has a utility, and that utility distinguishes it from Bitcoin and Ether. Sarah, you're both correct and incorrect. Continuing, Ripple's general counsel replies that, quote, while XRP's utility is different from that of Ethereum and Bitcoin, it does in fact have a use case. Quote, Bitcoin and Ether also have utility. Bitcoin does have use cases that it has developed. So does Ether. They have smart contracts, for example, that can be done over the Ethereum blockchain. XRP has also developed a number of use cases, and these started very early in the process, which is why it is so baffling that the SEC has charged this long-running scheme from 2013 to present, because XRP, for example, has a product called On-Demand Liquidity, ODL, that is used to assist financial institutions in having seamless and less costly transactions in key corridors. As XRP as a digital asset is helpful because it means that banks don't have to have their own fiat accounts on either end and can deploy that money more effectively elsewhere, and XRP can be used as a bridge currency. Mr. Garlinghouse, Ripple CEO, has been brought to Ripple to help develop these additional use cases. Yeah. So there. Now, the fact of the matter is that they're going about arguing it the wrong way, and I would suggest that that's purposeful, that these cases are meant to try to establish precedent. And what you people fail to fucking understand is that courts do not make law. They only interpret it, and their interpretation is only as good as it is in court. If you can make an example that deviates widely enough from the example that they provided and used as their justification for a particular interpretation of the law, then you can make a compelling case and you can be the new precedent setter. Precedent setting in court is not writing law. And see, the problem is that the SEC loves this about this whole shit, is they take somebody to court, right? And if the judgment is in their favor, that's now the court established precedent. And so that's how their lawyers argue in the future. You know, and the principle that it worked last time, and so it can work again this time. See, the problem with it is, though, is that no two instances are ever identical. And just because it looks like a 2 out of 3, like a security, doesn't mean that it is a security. That third makes a difference, whether they like it or not. And if you bring lawyers that are so fucking incompetent to court that they cannot identify that third and exploit the fuck out of it to establish some precedent in your favor, then you need to hire better counsel. You're fucking addressing, like, in my estimation, this whole case that they're bringing against XRP is stupid on its face. Number one, XRP is not technically a security. And I'll tell you why. If it was a security, it would represent a volume of value somewhere outside of itself. Meaning, like, the XRP on the market would have to represent a percentage of Ripple Labs ownership. Like, it would have to represent shares in the company Ripple Labs in order for it to be a security. Or it would have to represent a percentage of some other expected gain somewhere in order to be a security. XRP is not. Just because people trade it on altcoin exchanges and take advantage of the differential in valuations between one currency and another and Ripple and make money on the arbitrage does not in fact make it a security. It can be traded like securities can be traded. That does not make it a security. But Ripple does not represent any of these things. XRPs represent currency units that are sold by Ripple Labs and transacted on their network. That does not make them an MSB. It makes them transactors of XRP. And XRP, in fact, because it is not representing a value outside of itself, is not a security. The other thing is that Ripple Labs does not establish a preset valuation. So like Ripple Labs would have to have, like, say they've got like $100 million and each XRP is supposed to represent some percentage of that $100 million. Ripple Labs would have to be the known custodian of that $100 million, and they would have to register it with the SEC as collateral for the securities, i.e. XRP, that they're issuing out into the open market. This is not the case with XRP. There is a set volume of XRP. It is transacted across the XRP. Well, I don't know if there's a set number of them. I think in the future they can create more. But the point of the matter is that they can be transacted across the XRP network, and that's what they're used for. They're used as money, quote-unquote money, currency utilizable as money. That's what XRP is. That's what each one of those XRP units represents, about 57 cents currently worth of monetary value. And that exchange rate is not established or maintained by Ripple Labs, meaning they do not say to the rest of the world, each XRP is worth 57 cents because it represents 1/100 millionth of this volume of cash that we've got in Bank of America or US Bank or Berkshire Hathaway or whatever. I don't know. I don't care. Point is, these are the things that would make it a security, but it is not a security because it does not have these traits. It doesn't have these characteristics. And if I, a fucking fisherman, before I discovered all this shit, moderately computer capable, glorified button pusher, can understand that, then the lawyer understands it too, and they've got their head up their ass arguing up this other bullshit in vain, where, oh yeah, XRP has utility outside of being traded. That's a bullshit argument. Garlinghouse, your lawyer sucks. Tell him to get his head out of his ass. So yeah, Ethereum and Ripple and Bitcoin are not the same thing. I can agree with that. Neither Ethereum nor Bitcoin have an official corporate body, as opposed to at Ripple. So that does make it fundamentally different, but it does not make it a security. So yeah, again, the SEC is barking up the wrong tree, and Ripple Labs' lawyer is arguing the wrong case. So I don't expect that they are going to ever be able to resolve things on that front. But currently XRP is up at 58 cents per fucking Ripple, and I think that's good because I happen to own some. Oh, and by the way, I would own it whether or not the SEC said it was a security. Just because its function, I do kind of believe in its function, that banks need fictional notes to circulate. The danger I see is when those are exchanged for, Bitcoin and assumed value against such. But that's just me. Anyway, I got this thing here. It's on CoinDesk. Financial Watchdog Group updates guidance affecting DeFi and NFTs. And I just want to say it up front. The Fat F can go fuck themselves when it comes to your DeFi project or your NFTs. Continuing on. And, oh, damn it. It's a video. I don't want to watch the video. It's fucking 8 minutes long. I'll just read the synopsis here. March 22nd, the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, a global financial watchdog organization that has not been elected by anybody, has updated its guidance on crypto assets to be more inclusive of recent market changes, including the NFT boom and the growing interest in decentralized finance. Cian Jones of X-Reg Consulting weighs in on what the updated guidance means for crypto regulation. Yeah, and that's about as far as we're going to go with that, apparently, because it was a video. I do not want to discuss it. But anyway, that kind of throws me in a lurch there. I was expecting that to be something that we could read. Damn it, Jim. Oh well. I did have this other thing here, and I think we got enough. We got enough time. We can do it. This is on CoinDesk.com. Nigeria's central bank. We didn't ban crypto trading. In other words, we couldn't ban crypto trading because people kept doing it, so now we're just going to shut the fuck up about it. This is by Sebastian Sinclair, so yes, penis. And this is authored on March 22nd, 2021 at 2:10 a.m. PDT. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has clarified a statement it issued last month that seemed to order financial institutions to shut down all accounts associated with cryptocurrency trading. According to a report on Sunday, bank officials have said the directive is not to be mistaken for an outright ban. Instead, the bank said it has reiterated an already imposed 2017 ban on institutions facilitating cryptocurrency transactions. Speaking on behalf of the bank's chief, Godwin Emefiele, Deputy Governor Adamu Lamtek said the bank had never banned cryptocurrency activity in the country. The CBN did not place restrictions from use of cryptocurrencies, and we are not discouraging people from trading in them, said Lamtek. What we have just done was to prohibit transactions on cryptocurrencies in the bank sector. I wonder what that means. Does that mean only Goldman Sachs can trade cryptocurrencies within Nigeria? Lamtek was speaking at the 30th Seminar for Finance Correspondents and Business Editors held in the country's capital, Abuja. Confusion arose last month when the CBN said it was reminding regulated banking institutions that, quote, dealing in cryptocurrencies or facilitating payments for cryptocurrency exchanges is prohibited. Institutions were told to, quote, identify persons and or entities transacting with cryptocurrency or operating crypto exchanges. That prompted many Bitcoin users in the inflation-hit nation to take to social media in anger, seeking clarification on the bank's order. In response, the CBN provided a 5-page statement that included a pledge to protect Nigerian citizens from risks of cryptocurrencies. You cannot protect people from their own stupidity. You can't do it. You cannot make them like virus proof against their own fucking stupidity. It's going to get them every time. As I'm sure a lot of people on the Ethereum network are feeling right now. A lot of those Ethereum bag holders that bought their Ethereum at $1,800 are probably looking at their accounts right now, not all that happy about that investment. Anyway, and so I got this thing here. It's on the Kenyan Wall Street, and the Central Bank of Nigeria denies banning cryptocurrency usage. And this by Jackson Okoth. And it was authored on March 21st, 2021. So yes, penis. Central Bank of Nigeria has said the country's citizens were free to use Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and that all it has done is to prohibit their usage within the banking system. The governor of the CBN, Godwin Emefiele, disclosed this in Abuja at the recent 30th Seminar for Financial Correspondents and Banking Editors organized by the bank. The Central Bank of Nigeria insists only protecting banks. Bullshit. Emefiele, who was represented by Adamu Lamtek, the deputy governor of corporate services, said what the bank did was to protect the banking sector from the activities of cryptocurrencies and not a ban on its activities. He said that the CBN did not place restrictions on cryptocurrencies' use and was not discouraging people from trading in them. Quote, what we have just done was to prohibit transactions on cryptocurrencies in the banking sector, said the governor. Nigeria is considered the world's second largest Bitcoin market after the USA. Reports that it had banned the trading of cryptocurrencies triggered a severe public backlash among Nigerians who have taken to cryptos as a safe haven in a severely battered economy. Yeah, it's really, really funny to me. Like this to me reeks of Nigerian corruption. You know, where they were going to do a full cryptocurrency ban even for retail end users to engage in. But this guy, the governor, what is it? Trying to find his title. Let's see, where is it at? Yeah, the governor of the CBN was probably caught mining or trading, or his kid was caught trading or mining, and he's all of a sudden saying to these people that would be regulating it, oh no, everything is cool, just as long as you're just trading in crypto and you're not like exchanging with a bank and stuff, everything is cool. That's not what's actually going on, though. Like I said, these people, they're no better than the SEC, where the SEC just runs around and looks at stuff and says, oh, that people are making money on that. It looks like it's a security. We should bust them. Make sure the bankers are the only people that can make money. I'll tell you what, man. The more they talk about crypto, I think the more that they actually lose favor with the public. Where the public, such as me, such as you, hears them say shit like, Bitcoin isn't worth anything. Bitcoin isn't backed by anything. And while we're watching it jump through the roof versus the US dollar, and it's like, it's so obvious that it's just a bunch of bullshit. Guys should just shut up. Just like keep your mouth shut and like talk about US dollars or fiat currencies and trading those things. You talk about those things. That's something you know. That's your job. Just forget about what we're doing. Just ignore us. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with a little bit of music. And so here we go. A little bit of Ministry. Rio Grande Blood here on Coin Metal. And that was Static X with Destroyer. And so, what else we're going to get into today? I wanted to kind of expand on this whole Nigerian thing. I always think it's humorous when some national government thinks that they can do something about cryptocurrencies, especially after having watched them survive and flourish over the last decade. And so I got this thing here. It's on Coindust.com. Nigerian central bank says its ban on crypto accounts is nothing new. And this is by Sandali Handagama. And no penis. And this is authored on February 7th, 2021. So I guess it's like a callback. Anyway, continuing. The Central Bank of Nigeria issued a 5-page statement Sunday clarifying its position on cryptocurrencies after a regulatory warning to local bank institutions on Friday sent shockwaves through social media. In Sunday's statement, the CBN said Friday's letter was only a reminder that cryptocurrencies were not legal tender in Nigeria and was reiterating a position that the bank has held since 2017 and not imposing new restrictions on the industry. Quote, "It is important to clarify that the CBN circular of February 5, 2021 did not place any new restrictions on cryptocurrencies, given that all banks in the country had earlier been forbidden through CBN's circular dated January 12, 2017, not to use, hold, trade, and or transact in cryptocurrencies," the statement said. And I will say this, obviously they're not fucking listening to the head of the CBN, because they had to come out and say recently that no, the cryptocurrencies aren't illegal, we just don't want you to quote-unquote officially play with them. Continuing, the CBN sent a letter to local financial institutions on Friday ordering them to shut down all bank accounts associated with cryptocurrency trading platforms. In response to the letter, crypto trading platform Binance and local electronic payment apps like Bundle halted deposits. Angered Nigerian crypto users took to Twitter and other social media platforms to express their displeasure. You know what? That's the wrong move, Nigerians. I'll tell you why. The right move is to start up some nodes, start up some mining, and just circumvent these guys. Continuing on. The press statement signed by Osita Nawanasobi, AG Director of Corporate Communications, goes on to list other countries that have banned its banks from dealing in cryptocurrencies and makes the claim that in China, quote, "cryptocurrencies are completely banned and all exchanges closed as well." That's a bunch of bullshit. While China has imposed a number of restrictions on crypto exchanges and users, it has not outright banned cryptocurrency entirely. Actually, it has not outright banned them at all. Continuing. It also states that cryptocurrencies are issued by, quote, "unregulated and unlicensed entities," and that crypto assets are volatile speculative assets that can be a danger to Nigerian users, meaning we're invested in this up to our balls, but we don't want to share in the wealth, so you guys just don't pay attention to this over here. Continuing. The very name and nature of cryptocurrency suggests that its patrons and users value anonymity, obscurity, and concealment, the statement said. Yes, because those things are absolutely necessary for sovereignty. Continuing. In the letter, the CBN assured that this stance will not inhibit the progress of the fintech sector in the country or its payments ecosystems. The directive became necessary, it said, to protect Nigerians, including its youths, from the risks inherent in crypto asset transactions. Nigerian youth, if any of you are listening, please engage in this shit. The people that claim to like lead your banks and whatnot, they're into this up to their ass. Continuing, quote, due to the fact that cryptocurrencies are largely speculative, anonymous, and untraceable, they are increasingly being used for money laundering, terrorist financing, and other criminal activities, the statement said. Actually, the only thing they really care about is that they're not getting a cut of it. Continuing. The letter also stated the high volatility inherent in crypto assets posed a great threat to, quote, small retail and unsophisticated investors who stand to lose a lot. Okay, no. Let's turn it back right there. Hold on. The letter states that high volatility inherent in crypto assets posed a great threat to small retail and unsophisticated investors who stand to lose a lot. Okay, if they are small retail and unsophisticated investors, chances are that they are not going to lose a whole hell of a lot of money because they don't have a whole lot to begin with. Continuing on, quote, in light of these realities and analysis, the CBN has no comfort in cryptocurrencies at this time. It will continue to do all within its regulatory powers to educate Nigerians to desist from its use and protect our financial system from activities of fraudsters and speculators, except for other bankers. Yeah, and that's the thing, is that we continually hear about banksters committing massive frauds, including millions of customers and billions, if not trillions of dollars. And these are in regulated markets. The fact that you give in to regulatory compliance and all that shit, it's supposed to meet with a trade-off. That everybody else everybody else that's participating in the market as licensed and credentialed and whatnot is adhering to the same level of compliance that they are requiring of you. This is an assumption. This is a trust that we place in our governments, in our regulatory agencies, to not be treating us as second-class citizens to anybody in the market. And that's the real quote-unquote threat here, is that in cryptocurrencies, you are free to evaluate these things on these projects, these tokens, these coins, on their own merits. And you are the individual, you are the principal person that's supposed to be making that decision. The whole idea behind Bitcoin was that you would be able to keep and transact and store and custody your own funds safely, but in a digital environment. And there have been a number of different pressures being placed on you, and like I said, they're all semantic and mimetic bullshit. But if you've dealt with a fucking bully or two, and you've stood toe to toe with them and looked them in the eye and watched them back down, you understand that that's basically what's going on here, is that these offices, these regulatory agencies, are puffing themselves up and making a bunch of commentary and narrative concerning cryptocurrencies and their markets that they do not have any actual control over. They make a bunch of noises like they've got control over the shit, and you either A, listen to them, or B, listen to them only in as far as you absolutely have to avoid getting thrown in prison. So, shit like being an MSB or trying to set up an unlicensed exchange, all that other bullshit, unless you can do so without custody or you've read all the regulatory shit and gone through it with a fine-tooth comb and had a cadre of lawyers fucking examine it for you and explain it to you. And that's actually the most important part there. Not just that they understand it, that they make you understand it. So that heaven forbid you should ever need to make a decision without their say-so on the legal front, but that you're educated enough that you can actually do that. Because, after all, it is your money. So, you should probably, know how to handle it and know how to protect it and know how to invest it and direct it. You have to take responsibility for these things. I mean, it was easy enough to hand it off to entities like the Central Bank of Nigeria or the CFTC or the FATF or the SEC and just say, you guys be responsible for poking your noses up these guys' asses and making sure that they're legit. And see that anybody placed in this position is going to end up getting corrupted because the criminals out there have more money than you do. And so they can afford to corrupt the SEC, they can afford to corrupt the CFTC, any other entity out there. They can afford to throw them a big enough bone for them to either look the other way, as happened with the financial crisis back in 2008, 2009, or just play along, just play ball. We'll give you a good cutback. Or a kickback, you just take this money, everything will be cool, and, don't worry about it. See, that's why cryptocurrencies exist as peer-to-peer currencies, is because the need to trust these people on the in-between just isn't there. And arguably, it's not there within the banking systems that we currently have. Because the bankers will abuse their systems as they see fit, whether or not they're regulated, whether or not they're within a regulatory framework or anything. It doesn't matter. They'll do their thing because they're out to make money. And honestly, I think that's the thing that people forget most about banks is that they are businesses and they are out to make money. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're trying to make money too. I just want them to be honest with it. And what will make them more honest is having to compete with things like peer-to-peer digital currencies. See, if they have to compete with Doge, because you could just as easily ship $5,000 from you to somebody else using Doge as you can with US dollars or Chinese yen or any other currency on the planet. I mean, if that's something that you can say and do, why are we going to pretend that the Central Bank of Nigeria, the CFTC, the SEC, FINRA, FinCEN, FATF, the IMF, that these people have any say over our markets at all? I mean, I outline this stuff on this show specifically because I like to identify the little omissions. And there are many. And you read them every day in every piece of media, and you see it in every piece of media you watch, that there are small omissions that deviate specifically from the realities that these narratives are trying to, or supposedly trying to explain for you, or interpret for you, or make assimilatable for you, just like I am. But the difference in this space is that it's always come down to personal choice. Which currency you want to transact in. And there are plenty of them out there. But there isn't anybody that can point you in the correct direction. Without, of course, making their own mistakes. I mean, there are people like me out here who will identify for you some of the mistakes we've made and let you in on them. That's about the extent of the guidance I can provide, is what I reveal on the show or what I talk about on the show. But it's still you that has to make the final decision on that. Specifically, are you going to make the jump? Do you want to entertain any kind of investment in this space? Whether it be an NFT or an undisclosed, unlicensed, unregistered ICO or some shit like that. All that stuff is still going on, by the way. They call it different names. They go about it different ways, but same thing, And it's going to be this regulatory cat and mouse until we literally do not have enough money to continue to have these offices open. I mean, because there literally is no need for them within cryptocurrencies. Like, specifically with, like, Bitcoin, back in, like, 2012, when it was at the peak of its functionality, and actually a little bit before that, before the block size limit was introduced, it was running along so smoothly that often transactions would end up getting processed before 10 minutes. You get your first confirmation. And that was pretty cool. But, like, having experienced that in that kind of state, like having it go on to the blockchain directly in real time and observably, like I can look at the address that I sent it to, and I can see the transaction has confirmed. It has got a confirmation. Happened approximately 20 minutes ago. Is worth $20. So on and so forth. I can see it. I can verify it. I don't need to trust him when he says, "Oh yeah, I got the money." I can see that it happened. He can see that I sent it. He doesn't have to trust me that I have it. I can show him the public address from my wallet and say, "Hey, look, I got the money, man." He doesn't have to trust that I have it. He can see that I have it. He can verify that I have it. That's really what they mean when they say verify, not trust. Anyway, I got this other thing here on CoinDesk. India may block IP addresses of crypto exchanges, report. And this is by Tanzil Akhtar, and no penis. And this is authored on March 22nd, 2021 at 3:20 a.m. PDT. Some devotion there, Tanzil. Excellent. But you use bullet points. Fucking hate bullet points. India digital asset investors face more uncertainty amid reports government is mulling a block on internet addresses, or internet protocol addresses, IP addresses, of exchanges and companies that trade cryptocurrencies. The claim comes via a report Monday from local magazine Business Today, citing a source with knowledge of the matter but cannot be verified. Previously, India has attempted to block IP addresses of adult sites and some apps, according to Business Today, but with limited success due to the use of VPNs. India's government has said it plans to introduce a bill in the current session of Parliament that would ban, quote, private cryptocurrencies, though its scope is far from clear. There have been mixed signals regarding the planned legislation, with one government official stating India would completely ban cryptocurrency use, and another suggesting that will not be the case. The Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs, Nirmala Sitharaman, said earlier this month, quote, "From our side, we are very clear that we are not shutting all options. We will allow certain windows for people to do experiments on blockchain, bitcoins, or cryptocurrency." In February, Indian currency exchanges launched the, quote, India Wants Bitcoin campaign, an initiative to convince Parliament to regulate cryptocurrencies rather than impose an outright ban. Actually, there really should be no call to regulate cryptocurrencies or ban them for that matter. But apparently these people are too used to asking somebody to rule them, and they don't seem to understand the irony. Either that, or this is like the pro-state version of the bullshit, and it's being reported on here as though it is a native or natural consensus, or a dominant consensus among cryptocurrency users in India. And I would be willing to bet that that particular narrative is bunk, because it doesn't seem to be that way anywhere else. And so it doesn't make sense to me that this particular conceptual magic is only happening in India. But yeah, a lot of competition controls stepping up these days. And it really seems to me like kind of like the slug bug or the that OK symbol game that you play with friends in a car, where you make them look, and if they look and see the OK sign on your leg, then you can hit them on the thigh or on the shoulder or something like that. You know, it's basically what it seems like to me. You know, and just trying to simulate in your mind, at least, that they have this kind of control over the markets. And I have yet to see any kind of evidence that that is the case. You know, really, as long as I've been involved here, it seems to me that the thing that they actually have any kind of control over is where these cryptocurrencies and digital assets intersect with fiat currencies. That is their realm. If you want to do finance without them, you cannot involve their dollars or their real or any other currency that they manage. Those are their tokens. And so if you want to stay free of their regulating apparatus, you need to stay exclusively in crypto, and you need to be hosting it as much as possible. You know, so that you're not having to rely on a regulated entity to custody your funds for you. You know, as tempting as that may be, it has inherent risks that you must maintain mindfulness of. Yeah, anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music. As far as where to go, not entirely sure here. It'll be short though, whatever it is. I haven't really got a terribly long amount of time left in this particular episode. Let's go with this one here. Faith No More. Surprise, You're Dead. Here on Coin Metal. Oh man, caught me sleeping there. That was Down with Rehab. And it is with that I'd like to bring this episode to a close. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate your support. We'll be back again on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe, do your homework, and watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Not even the Nigerian CBN. And as far as our last dance is concerned, I have not picked one out yet. Like there's anything new about that, right? But when it comes to crypto and the peer-to-peer cryptocurrency space as a whole, I feel that this song really applies. And so here it is. Disturbed, Indestructible, Last Dance, here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent evening. Good night.